Hey diva, welcome back to the Garbage Candy channel, Housewives with Heather, right here. I'm Heather, if you're new here. I'm a Real Housewives super fan, sociology diva, and overall just mostly a girl who loves to talk. So if you don't know what we do here, we are recapping Real Housewives from the very beginning, recapping, discussing, all that fun stuff. If you haven't watched my series on season 1 of Real Housewives of Orange County, obviously I'm going to tell you that you should watch it because I think I kind of ate that. You can kind of just jump in whenever, so most things you will be able to grasp, but if there's any necessary context, I will try my best to provide it. But if you want a more in-depth look and you want more me, basically, and you want more Housewives, that will be linked in the description. I have been itching and bursting at the seams to get into season 2 with you all, but before we jump in, disclaimers from season 1 still stand. I'm not really going to spend too much time dwelling on anything that's super of the time, early 2000s problematic that they say. That's more of a warning if you want to go and watch the show for yourself. There are some things they say where it's like, oh, that's not, but I'm just not really here to sit here and highlight and unpack them unless I think it's relevant to my recapping, so just keep that in mind. Number 2 is just don't be an asshole. I feel like that should go without saying, but you know how the internet is. Just be nice to me. I don't know, I feel like I'm not asking too much. And final disclaimer, if you are from Bravo or if you're affiliated with anyone from Bravo, please don't sue me. If I say something you don't like, something unsavory, don't sue me. I say it with love. I'm a huge fan. I just want to give like a massive, enormous, huge thank you to every single person who watched my videos, subscribed to the channel, liked, commented, or even just supported me in like any way. It truly cannot be overstated just how grateful I am. I really do hope that you have as much fun watching my videos as I have making them, because I truly do have the time of my life making these videos. I want you to know how grateful and happy I am, and I hope that we can hang out and talk about reality TV forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, and actually I have one more thing to say. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Literally, what are you doing? Consider changing that. I can't make you do anything and I'm not gonna beg, but just think about it. Hit the button. I don't know what side it's on or like what platform you're watching on, but somewhere on the screen, I'll hit it. I'll get it somewhere. Let's just consider changing that. Okay, let's get this show on the road now. So right out the gate with episode 1, we do get new taglines for the women, and we have a new housewife who we will get into. Her name is Tammy. Super exciting. And before you ask, if any of you want to know what I'm holding, I'm probably holding a little plushie. I like to have something to squeeze on so that my hand's not just like flying around. I dropped it. If it's not immediately apparent to you, I am an adult ADHD diva, so I just need something to like squish on and hold. And sometimes I'm holding it, sometimes I'm not. But right now, look how cute. Look how cute. Okay, anyway, back to this.
I deserve only the best. I'm worth it.
So the first woman we see is Jo, who was on last season, and she is back with Slade. Famously my best friend in the whole world, my favorite person to ever be on my television screen, literally my ultimate bias in all of Real Housewives. I'm just fucking with you. I can't stand him, but it's a new season, so I'm approaching this with kindness and an open mind and an open heart, okay? Let's see how long that lasts. So Jo is getting ready for the party, the Midsummer Nights party at the Playboy Mansion, the same one that Lauri went to last season, but we'll get to that. And she is going with her friend JJ, who I think is like her friend from high school. We're gonna see JJ a lot. She's just sort of like Jo's friend. Slade, no, let me be nice, let me be nice, let me be nice, let me be nice, let me be nice. Slade, if you haven't watched my video on season 1, Slade is about 12 years her senior. Slade obviously is not going to the party at the Playboy Mansion, but he's not too concerned, he says, you know, sometimes there's events that we both can't go to. Like, I went to the Maxim party. Let me be nice. Let me be nice. Let me be nice. Let me be nice. Right out the gate, I detect a bit of shade because Jo mentions that this is the same party that Lauri went to last year, and she claims that, you know, it's way easier to get in if you're a blonde. It doesn't matter if you're hot or not. Whereas if you're a brunette, you kind of have to be hot to go, which is
5, 6, 7, 8.
I know Lauri went last year, but I've heard in the past that if you're a blonde, it's really easy to get in, but if you're a brunette, it's super hard to get in. I guess unless you're good looking.
I feel like I'm going to be saying this a lot. If you were with us for season 1 At the end of season 1, when Joe and Slade broke up briefly, Slade was spotted out on several dates with Lauri. So there's a bit of unresolved conflict between these two women, which, trust me, we will get to.
Here's to not being fake.
And next we see the OG of the OG, Miss Vicki Godwilson, getting eyelash extensions, which is a new technology at this time, which is so fascinating because now it feels like, well, not now, but maybe like 2 years ago, it felt like everybody was getting them. Can I just say, Vicki looks so good. I don't know if maybe it was the Miss Piggy comment that got to her, but she looks really, and this is a common thing we see on Real Housewives, is like between their first and their second season, they come back glowing. Now it's usually they come back with piano keys, but let me be nice. Let me be nice. She's talking about how Dawn finally got another job, which is really exciting. And they have kind of an independent marriage. They sort of do things separately. So he goes and does his own thing and she goes and does her own thing. So she's going up to Chicago to visit her son, Michael, who is gone to work for the summer with his biological father, her ex-husband, Michael. She says that she basically shipped him off to Chicago to get a job because all summer he was just being defiant and like sleeping in late, not really doing anything. And she's like, okay, you need to learn a work ethic, which was something we saw with him last season as well. He is a little bit of a brat, like not in the Charlie XCX way, but in the like, doesn't really understand the value of a dollar, takes advantage of his parents' money, that kind of way.
That's not the way this house runs. I sit down, I think we're going to have to ship him back to Chicago to learn the work ethic, to learn that I'm not only going to be on his back, but my mother and my brother and my sister won't let him sleep till 12 and 1 o'clock.
And Michael low-key sucks at this. I literally wrote in my notes, oh my god, he's flopping. Because that's what it's giving. His father says that a 6-year-old could wield a hammer better than him, so... And they basically say, like, yeah, if he worked for any other construction company, mama, he would have been fired. Capital F, fired. And Vicki does say that now that Michael's an adult, she does think it's important for him to have his own relationship with his father, which he didn't really have living out in California. And both Vicki and Michael did mention last season that Michael is a lot more like his biological dad, so I think this will be good for him and hopefully teach him a little bit of a work ethic, because we were not seeing that last season. We were not seeing that at all. He was failing out of school, just wanted to sort of like fuck around, for lack of a better word.
I have always wanted things. I crave money.
So then we see Jeana, and she's still a real estate agent. She's actually in the top 1% worldwide with RE/MAX, which is kind of insane. And she's doing a showing for this house that is genuinely insane. Like a TV drops down from the ceiling. And she says that her career has come a long way since being a Playboy centerfold. And she's laughing all the way to the bank because that RE/MAX money is long. Okay? She said she sold 3 houses on that street. And this house, I think I said this in my season 1 series. I love watching luxury home tours on YouTube. Like, unfortunately, that is my tea. I live for it. I like seeing things that are ostentatious, tacky. I'm sorry. I will actually, no, I'm not going to apologize for that. That's who I am. But this house, there's such a specific type of like California rich, like wealthy person real estate that is so ugly. Like, it's hideous. I would rent a house like this for like a month and just like kick it. I don't know.
This is the great room. And I love the way they did 2 different seating groups. Oh, these are the best chairs. I am perfectly confident that I'll be able to sell this house. I've sold 3 on this street, so it's kind of my street.
All right, that's great.
I know your client will love it. It's a beautiful house.
So then we're back to Joe, and we see Mr. Slade Smiley. I'm trying so hard to be kind. Okay, I'm trying so hard to practice positivity right now with Slade Smiley. He looks a little different this season. He grew out a beard and like he's dressing different too. I don't know if maybe it's the same thing where he saw himself on TV and was like, oh, I actually come off as fucking insane, so let me like actually try to be a little bit normal. Maybe, I don't know, we're probably 5 minutes into the first episode, so it does seem like he's trying to be a little bit more chill and likable. That's sort of my initial impression, but that also could just be me trying to approach this with positivity and an open heart. So maybe we're meeting in the middle a little bit. However, he is jealous. In my notes I wrote, Slade is jealous AF.
Okay, you don't think I should have an issue with the fact that you go out and buy sexy lingerie to go wear at someone else's house?
We are so not having this conversation right now.
JJ, handle it. I tried to get you in.
JJ tried to get him in. I don't know how hard she tried, but she did try.
And Joe mentions that Slade has been a bit more jealous and insecure lately, which is very interesting to me because he's the one who was off dating someone else when they were on a break, but he's being a bit jealous, which is like, I mean, she is going to the Playboy Mansion, so like I will give him grace there. That is definitely like a kind of normal thing to be jealous of, but also like it does kind of seem like an event that everybody was going to. Her and JJ look phenomenal. They look so cute. They're gonna have fun. And Joe calls Slade a jealous bitch, which he is. Thank you.
Bye!
She'll be a good girl. Otherwise, I will hunt her down.
But then 1 hour later, Slade is calling Lauri and asking if she's going to this party, which is just a bit weird. I don't really know. Even Lauri's like, I don't know what business he has calling me. Like, why do you care? Again, I'm trying to be nice and I'm trying to practice positivity, but Joe did literally call him a jealous bitch, so I feel like I have a bit of grace to say the same thing. He's being a jealous bitch and he's being weird, which is weird because he was the one who went on a date with Lauri. He was the one who was dating somebody else, not Joe, but let's move on.
I was poor, I was rich, I was poor again. And you know what? Having money is easier.
Speaking of Lauri, we see Lauri, and she says her life is on a complete 360 turn since last summer, which I always find it funny when people say that because 360 is like you're back at the place you started. It should be a 180, but her life is on a 180. Let's just say that. She went on a blind date with this guy named George, who's a real estate developer, and things just took off, as we remember. And then for those of you who were not here for season 1, Lauri, she was taking it last season. It was bad for her. It was really bad for her. She was just out of a divorce. She had no divorce settlement money. She was living in this townhouse with all of her kids. Her daughter came back from LA to then surprise live with her. Her son was in juvie. Like, it was bad for her. It was bad for my sister. She was living in the torture labyrinth, and now she's been rescued from the torture labyrinth. So let's celebrate that. Sorry, he's a land developer, not a real estate developer. I don't know if there's a difference, but I'm not going to sit here and lie.
God. George, you like big toys? I finally convinced George to take his boat out after being in storage for a year, and took the kids and got jet skis, this big, huge, massive boat, headed out to the ocean. I'm so excited.
Fine, I'm glad.
Oh my God, this thing is huge.
They go out on George's boat, and she's like, you know, this is just the environment that I feel comfortable in. Which is like fair. Like, I would feel pretty comfortable too out on this boat. I'm honestly really happy for her because number one, you can tell she wanted this so bad. Like, from last season and like even just right now, like she needed this. She wanted this really badly. She wanted a man and she wanted a rich man. So kudos to her. She does say she's met her Prince Charming because, as we know, last season she was talking about how basically she was always ending up with losers, abusive men, drug addicts, like just the worst of the lot. And now she's met her Prince Charming. She's met this rich man who clearly loves her a lot, and I'm happy for her. But unfortunately, not all that glitters is gold because Josh apparently has taken a turn for the worst, and he's in a treatment center that's about 2 hours from Orange County, so he's not able to join them a lot. As we know, last season, Josh was in juvenile hall for the majority of the season for felony assault charges. And Lauri mentioned as well that he has struggled with drugs and alcohol and just generally bad behavior, so he is in a treatment center getting treatment that he needs, but it is unfortunate that he is separated from the rest of the family.
I have 4 kids. Slade, who's 15, Danica, who's 13, Bria, who's going to be 10, and Kenzie's senior in high school, and modeling up in Los Angeles.
We're the modern day Brady Bunch. I mean, it is so fun. I'm comfortable here in this environment. This is what I'm used to.
Sorry for the constantly changing lighting. Number one, it is now past daylight savings, so the sun goes down a lot later. Unless I want to start filming at like 8 o'clock, which I don't really want to do, we're going to have to deal with that. And also, I feel like I have to come clean. For season 1, I made it seem like I filmed everything in one day. I didn't. So if it happens again where suddenly I'm talking about, episode 5 and it's light outside again, I'm not a time traveler. I'm a stickler for continuity. So enough. Anyways, so back at Jeana Keough's house, as we remember from last season, Jeana, in her family, baseball is like a huge thing, and her eldest son, Shane, had gotten a really shitty draft pick position. I'm just regurgitating sports terminology. This is not me speaking from the heart. I don't know this. I only know what Jeana said. So he was going to go away to college in hopes of getting more playing time, in hopes of getting a better draft position next round. So Shane had had a really shitty summer because right before he was supposed to sign with the Oakland A's, he hurt his back and basically had to just stop playing for the entire summer. So he's on hiatus. He's 20 now. He's got a shaved head and he's got these earrings. And the diamond earrings are kind of a point of contention because when he came home, his parents were like, why do you have those?
When I came home, my parents just kind of looked at me like, who are you?
And I said, you've not played one game. You've been injured. You've been given a fairly large amount of money. You come from a high-profile name. I said, you know, the guys that are wearing the big earrings on TV, they've accomplished a lot. But you've done nothing.
And I know I said several times last season, I kept calling Jeana's kids badass kids. And we didn't really see much of them being badass kids last season. I was more referring to this, where they're just always screaming and throwing shit. They did it a couple times last season, but they're always screaming and throwing shit at each other. And Jeana's like, my house is so chaotic. Like, I love it here. This is my hell. I love stimulation. I love high energy. This is my actual nightmare.
Oh, jeez.
No!
What happened?
I worked so hard to keep it clean!
What is going on? The rodeo just got now.
Hey, the gym opens tomorrow. Hold on.
And clearly it's not just my nightmare because Matt is not having any of it. And Jeana does mention that chaos and loud noise is really hard for him with his injury. As we remember, we found out last season, he had like a really traumatic brain injury. He was sitting in the dugout during a baseball game, got hit with a stray ball and like had to go to the hospital immediately, almost died. And now his personality did a complete 180, like just big head injury. Let's just keep that in mind. Big head injury. And honestly, we didn't really see much of Matt last season. He was kind of in the background a lot. We never really heard him speak except for like once or twice. And Cara mentions, even though Shane said last season that before the injury, his dad was really happy-go-lucky. He was really fun to be around. And then after the injury, that kind of switched. Cara says that she actually doesn't remember her dad pre-injury. She only remembers him post-injury. So they have very different experiences with their father. But even just right here and throughout the season, we do get a lot more insight and a lot more of a peek into the dynamic of the Keough household and what their life is like. And we do get just a small preview of that in this very uncomfortable interaction. Just this whack scene of these kids throwing shit at each other and fighting, and then this awkward interaction between Cara and her dad. It's just like, there's a lot happening here. It's very dysfunctional to me personally.
No sense of reality at all, the sense of stupidity.
Really? Because I don't think you're around enough to know who I am.
What you're being right now is stupid. Nothing less, nothing more.
No. I got a 4.6 last semester. 4.6.
A lot of people 4.6s have no social skills, and right now you're not
That
showing
was
any.
this semester. Dad, why are you being mean today?
Because you're overcooked right now.
You know what? Your room's over there.
Then we see Kimberly, who is actually not, it's weird for me to say we see her, but she's not in the season. But we see her, but she's not in the season. In Not All Diamonds and Rosé, which is, if you are a Real Housewives fan, this is the Bible. It's the oral history of the Real Housewives. I've bookmarked mostly about Orange County, but it has like chronological chapters about every single Housewives franchise. I think it doesn't have Salt Lake City because that's a more recent one, but if you're a Housewives fan, this is a must read. If you have a Housewives fan in your life that you need a gift for, this is the book. I did mention this in season 1, but in Not All Diamonds and Rosé, they do mention that as production went on and as the show was airing, Kimberly was sort of realizing that like this just wasn't really the tea for her. And obviously I do think, again, I feel like I've referenced season 1 already so many times, but in season 1, Kimberly opened up about her experience with skin cancer. She did have a malignancy, like we did see that. If you are going through something like that, I would imagine like being on reality TV is probably just a lot. So it does make sense that this experience might not be something that is conducive with her life, especially given all that she was going through. But we do see her moving out of her house because she reveals that her family has moved up to Chicago. Kimberly and Scott, given Kimberly's history with skin cancer, felt it would make a lot more sense to live somewhere where there's not as much sun exposure. And Kimberly mentions as well that there is a hereditary aspect to, I believe, all forms of cancer, but she specifically mentioned skin cancer, and that her son Travis, who's 8 years old, had a very slow growing cancerous mole on the back of his ankle. So that was sort of like their sign to just pack it up, say, nope, no more sunny California, like we need to get out of here.
No, it's tough to get kids to be compliant and cover up. So we decided to reduce the risk if we moved to an area where there's only sun 3 months out of the year. It would make it a lot easier.
And Kimberly expresses that she feels guilty, not just because she feels like she's removing their kids from like their social circle, their friends, that kind of thing, but also she feels like because of the hereditary nature of this cancer, she does feel like on some level she brought this upon her son, which I get why she feels that way, but like, and that's a very natural feeling, but I even though this was filmed like like over a decade ago, I'm like, I don't want her to feel that way because there's so much more to it than that. And she also says she doesn't want Travis to feel like they're moving because of him, because he was joking being like, we're moving because I have moles, but she's like, I don't want him to feel like that's the reason. I also do think that even if Kimberly had decided to stay in California, I don't know if she would have done season 2. I just don't think it was like I mentioned, I just don't think it was really conducive with her family life and everything that she was going through. I think she would appear on the show, and I think that's also mentioned in Not All Diamonds and Rose, that we do see her sometimes like as a friend and appearing. Like, this isn't the last we see of her, I don't think, but I don't think she would have come back as a main housewife even if she didn't move away.
Cara, you never call me anymore.
You never called me, dirty one.
What'd you call me?
So in addition to having badass kids, Jeana also has badass dogs, and she's threatening to sell Cara's dog on eBay. I didn't know you could sell a dog on eBay. And at first, like when I wrote the notes, oh, she wants to sell the dog, in my mind I'm thinking like Facebook Marketplace, which I don't think existed then, or like Craigslist, but I didn't think you could sell a dog on eBay. I don't think you could sell live animals on eBay. Maybe times have changed. I don't know. But they have like mad dogs. They have so many dogs, and I swear we did not see any of these dogs last season. And they're like, yeah, we're a big dog family. And I don't think these dogs were ever mentioned last season. And apparently she sold one of Cara's dogs before. And Jeana basically is like, we have all these dogs running around and nobody wants to take responsibility for them, which, like, yeah, shocker. These kids are spoiled as hell. Of course they're not taking responsibility for anything. But also, like, who set that system up? So we're back to Lauri and Lauri's Brady Bunch, as she will continue to call it. And she was actually able to get Josh out of his treatment program for the day so that the whole family could go to the beach together, which is really nice. So they get to the beach and Shane is there. I was going to say randomly, but like they do live in the same area. And Shane mentions the Playboy party to Lauri, and he seems kind of mad that he's not going. He was like, yeah, I was supposed to go. Like, are you going? And she's like, well, no, I'm in a committed relationship now. So, like, that's not really, like, my lifestyle anymore.
Joe called, but she called and said I was going. She's like, oh, yeah, we'll hang out.
When he mentioned that he had spoken to Joe, I was actually really surprised because I knew that there was some controversy last year in regards to Shane and Joe's relationship.
Joe and I flirt just because that's just our attitude, but I think I would ask Joe out.
So Shane then asked Lauri about Josh, and Lauri says that a few weeks after he was released from juvenile hall, he was booked for speeding with underage kids in the car, which isn't great, to say the least. And in order to get off of probation and finish school, Josh was sent to a state-run boarding school where he basically lives full-time now, which is what I mean when I say Lauri has to, like, get him out for the weekend or get him out for the day. Like, he has to get like a little day pass. And Lauri does say that she feels guilty that Josh isn't home with the rest of the family, which I understand, especially because she is sort of living just like this new life, and to feel like her son is left behind. It would probably feel weird for both of them, where it's like, yeah, my mom is living a completely different life while I'm here, and she's like, my son is in a state-run boarding school while I'm living this fabulous life. But believe me, we're gonna get into it. It's only the first episode.
Probably the biggest thing to get through right now is the battles I've had with myself. Just staying clean, staying up. I think I'm gonna stay until I get my GED and everything, because I can start college. I can get enrolled in college there too. So
Vicki's still in Chicago, and she mentions that her insurance business is actually growing and expanding, and it's a lot more than just she can handle. So she's had to hire more employees to keep up with the demand, and this employee she's hired is named Duff, and he's a friend of Jeana's. And when I first watched this, I was like, why do I have to care about this random man? But we'll get to it. Duff has a 4-year-old son who's running around the office, and he said that having this job is actually really good for him because it helps him sort of expand his horizons. He was in a relationship with a woman for 10 years and they were supposed to move to Palm Springs, and at the last second she was like, not really, not feeling this one, sweetheart, and they broke it off. And he says that working with Vicki is a walk in the park because he's been dealing with crazy women for 10 years. But when you're a man, all women are crazy, right?
No, I was in a relationship for 10 years with somebody that I had a child with, a woman that was supposed to move with me to Palm Springs, and unfortunately at the last minute she changed her mind.
Oh, you gonna go to sleep?
It's a total family meltdown.
So Vicki's having lunch with like her mom and her son and just a bunch of family, and she's hoping that Michael's summer work in construction will help him take his education more seriously. And there's nothing wrong with working in construction, but Vicki kind of hopes that Michael wants more for himself.
Your paycheck requires your body to be physically fit at all times. And if you get
injured, like with your hand,
you wouldn't be able to make your mortgage pay.
That would really be scary.
Yeah. You know, I was born and raised in construction. It's a tough way to make a living. I want much more from Michael. I want him to be educated. I want him to do whatever he wishes to do, but hopefully it's more than construction.
And Vicki and her mom are kind of like, Vicki's mom is teasing her. In my notes I wrote they weren't getting along, but I think this is just kind of like how their relationship is. And we saw this briefly in season 1, but Vicki's mom doesn't really approve of her California lifestyle. She just doesn't really understand it and thinks it's a bit too extravagant, like the eyelash extensions, the Botox, the bleached hair, all of that. And she's kind of poking fun at Vicki, just being like, "Oh, I think I see a wrinkle. Ooh." And Vicki's like, "Mom, you said you were going to be nice. Like, come on." And Vicki's mom says to us, when I say she says to us, it's like in her little talking head. She says Vicki needs constant assurance. She always needs to hear that you're proud of her and that you approve of her and all of that. And it's just interesting. I try not to mention season 1 challenge, but like I did mention this in season 1 that it is interesting to sort of see, like, it doesn't matter how old you are. Your mom is always your mom and you're always her daughter. It's very interesting just seeing that dynamic at this stage of your life.
She thinks I'm mean to her if I don't agree with her. Let's put it that way. Then I'm mean. I don't approve of that Botox.
So back to Miss Lauri. Lauri says that George wants to make her life easier and he's taking her out to a beautiful dinner at the St. Regis, whatever that means. And she says, she's like, "Oh, this champagne is nice. Like, are we celebrating something?" And he's taking her on a vacation to Europe for 2.5 weeks. Hello. And they've only been dating for 6 months. And I'm like, God, I've seen what you've done for others. I've seen what you've done for others. Because really, like, even just the way she's giggling, like, she is happy as fuck. And like, she needed this. She needed this. I guess manifestation does work, because that's literally all she ever wanted last season was like, I need a rich man. I need a rich man. And boom. Okay, and not to sound like a walking motivational quote, you know I love my affirmations. If you know me, you know I love my affirmations because I'm a little insane. But it really is like she had a year from hell and then now she's blessed. So if you're going through hell, maybe something really sickening is waiting for you. I don't know. The proof is in the pudding.
Going to Europe.
I am so excited to get to Saint-Tropez. I mean, to all of Europe. I cannot wait for this trip. This is going to be the craziest trip ever. I'm still kind of nervous. I've never, ever, ever gone on vacation for 2.5, 3 weeks ever in my life.
So then we see all the ladies going out for a cocktail with Kimberly as a little goodbye party because she's moving to Chicago famously. And Kimberly mentions she calls living in Orange County living behind the orange curtain, which I kind of live for. But she does say, she's like, as much as it's nice, you do kind of forget you're blocked off from everything going on in the outside world and you live in this little bubble. And Kimberly said it is bittersweet to be closing this chapter of her life. And all during this, Vicki is asking for blue cheese stuffed olives for her martini, her dirty martini. And this will become her signature cocktail. And she's asking the waitress, she's like, "You don't have blue cheese stuffed olive? You have blue cheese, you have olives. Can you go back there and like stuff the olives?"
I say living behind the orange curtain. I mean, it's easy to forget about the things the rest of the world has to worry about.
Do you have blue cheese stuffed olives?
We do not.
I just asked.
Regular olive. I know.
Do you have blue cheese in the back of the kitchen?
gosh.
Can you take a pimento out and stuff it for me?
These are so
Ask because that would really make us all very, very happy.
And I always wanted to try a dirty martini because they look so fierce. Like the iconography of it is so fierce. Tell me why I tried one recently and that shit was disgusting. I did not fuck with that. I was like, I don't think this is the tea for me. Maybe it's because I don't like olives and that's like what the whole thing is. I really hope it's an acquired taste and I really want to acquire that taste because they're so fierce. Maybe it's just like not in the universe's plan for me, but I really want to. Cocktails are kind of a big, obviously alcohol is a big thing on Real Housewives, famously, specifically on a little show that is being developed as this season is airing. The working title being Manhattan Moms, Real Housewives of New York, Real Housewives of Alcohol City, thank you. I'm more of a cosmopolitan queen, which I think is what Jeana is drinking. So hey Jeana, hey sis. Does anybody have a favorite cocktail?
I don't let my kids or my exes drive me crazy.
So then we see Jeana, she's going for lunch with her friend Tammy, who actually is the new housewife this season. This is our introduction to Tammy, Miss Tammy Knickerbocker. And she is a longtime friend of Jeana's. Jeana says they've been friends for about 10 to 15 years. Tammy's almost like a sister to Jeana. And Tammy says she's a single mom. She was divorced and then she was dating somebody for about 10 years. I don't know if you're putting any pieces together, because when I was watching this, I certainly was not. And Tammy used to babysit Jeana's kids. That's how close they are. And one time when she was babysitting Jeana's kids for 8 days, her house flooded. And thus brings Tammy onto our screens.
My whole life has been on hold because of this house damage. When I was married, we had a lot of money, and we lost everything when we got divorced. The idea of moving from big house to a smaller house was not my problem. I didn't have an issue with that. It was the first house I bought by myself, on my own.
And so this house that Tammy bought was actually the first house she'd ever bought, completely on her own. Sounded a little familiar. And this house she bought, she was moving on with her life. She was super excited to start this new chapter, and then the house flooded and everything was destroyed. And Tammy's hoping that this bout of bad luck ends soon. And I'm like, hey, if it ended for Lauri, it can end for you too. But it is kind of interesting. I wouldn't necessarily call Tammy down on her luck. We obviously, this is the first like 30 seconds we're seeing of this woman. We're obviously going to learn a lot more about her. But it is kind of interesting that right as Lauri's on the upswing, we get introduced to a new single mom who just lost everything. So here's our new SpongeBob in Silent Hill. So we are back to Joe and Slade, and I will say, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but Slade is like marginally more likable this season. Shocking. I know. I can't even, hell must have frozen over that I'm even saying that. And so Joe and Slade are having their little date night. She says they're working on trusting each other again. She's telling him all about the Playboy party, and she's talking about all the celebrities that were there, and Slade is like, that's the one thing that concerns me about Hollywood. Like, I'm just scared you'll run off with one of these producer guys. Like, slow down, slow down.
If you'd like run off with like a producer guy.
I have a boyfriend,
I know.
so I wouldn't cheat.
Yeah, maybe you break up with him.
Why?
Because you were hot for a producer guy.
So I could sleep with him to get ahead.
I know I literally just said that Slade was marginally more likable, but I kind of take that back. He's still weird. Some things truly just don't change. Because he keeps like almost having this like fantasy about like, oh, you're gonna run off with this producer and, you know, sleep with him to get ahead. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But as they've mentioned several times in this episode, there's clearly trust issues going on. There's clearly some jealousy or whatever that's going on Slade's end that he's projecting onto her. I don't know if you can hear that, but wee wee wee.
You know I love you. And if anything ever happened between us, not that it will. Not that it will.
Yeah, it's the second time you brought it up at dinner.
I'm just telling you that if anything ever happened between us, that I would always be there for you as your best friend.
But after all that weird end to that dinner, Joe does say, she's like, I just feel like we're growing apart. It's kind of most pleasing to me to start the season on the note of like, I think me and Slade are growing apart. Like, yay! I literally could have told you that, of course you're growing apart. She's like 25 at this point and he's like 37 or 38. So I could have told you that. And thus ends the first episode of season 2. Like I said, I'm so unbelievably excited for this. If we're thinking about evolution, and you know when like the picture of, let me pull it up. If you look at like human beings evolution, we're like here. We're like towards, if that's season 1 and this is like modern housewives, we're like here right now. So it's a little bit exciting for me. We are going to start to see the show evolve and develop into the show that I am obsessed with. Things are the same and things are different this season. So I'm very excited to get into the rest of the season. Let's get into episode 2. So Episode 2 opens with Joe waking up in bed at her and Slade's house, ready for work, and she says that she has a new job as a title rep, and she says that part of her job is to visit clients. So she's in a bit of a transition period at work because half her clients are out in Newport Beach and half of them are out in LA. And I had to look at a map because I didn't, every time they talk about like, oh, I'm going up to LA, I'm going down to LA, and before anyone tells me like, how do you not know like where this is? I'm from Canada. If you're not from Canada, can you name all the provinces? I didn't think so. Also, the outfit she's wearing to go to work is like, it reminds me of that TikTok. I can't remember if it was a tweet or a TikTok or whatever, where someone was like, office siren, girl, you were a walking HR violation. She's got her Joes out for work, like, holy. But Joe's really happy with her job. And if you remember from season 1, shout out season 1, that was a big point of contention between her and Slade, was that she really wanted to work and have a sense of independence. He wanted her to kind of be this like kept woman. Very strange. That's a big part of why I don't like him. But she says she's very happy with her job and she's happy with having this newfound sense of independence. That she's able to kind of have her own job and do her own thing, and she feels like herself again. She feels like she's finding herself again. And it turns out she actually works for his company, so I guess that's why he's like not too fussed about her having a job, because he still has some aspect of control over her. But I said I was being nice. I already lasted 1 episode being mostly nice until the end, but mostly nice. And that has to be a record.
Joe's very, very hungry for independence and wants to be successful on her own. Joe works for my company, so I will make sure that she becomes very, very successful.
Honey, I'm leaving.
And Slade says he thinks that Joe's going through another phase, and throughout their relationship, she's gone through these phases where she's like, I want to do this, and he's like, okay, I'll go get that thing for you. And then when she tries it out, she's like, I don't actually really want this, which is like, not to belabor the point again, but she's also in her mid-20s. People go through that throughout their life. It doesn't matter how old you are. Like, you're allowed to have free will and change your mind regardless of how old you are. It does feel a bit condescending and belittling of him to call it a phase, because that's something you say about like your kid who's 16, not your girlfriend who's 25. You know what I mean?
I think Joe's going through a phase. Through our whole relationship, there have been things she wants, and I've attempted to be as supportive as possible and said, fine, go check it out. Go do that. And then she comes back and goes, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, I told you.
Maybe part of these phases she's going through is she does want to have that independence. She wants to work for something and have it be her own, as opposed to just like, look what my boyfriend got me. But I'm not them, and this was over a decade ago, so who knows. So we're at the Gunvalson household, and Vicki is taking her family on a cruise out of Rome, which is great because Vicki needs a vacation. But Vicki's obviously being Vicki, and she's telling Brianna how to pack. She's handing out to-do lists. She's really just acting insane, which is what she kind of does best. And Vicki is calling the cruise agency and losing her marbles because they're telling her like, no, there's no internet, you cannot work from home on the cruise. I'm sure things are different now, but like, it is kind of funny. She's like, what do you mean people don't work on vacation? It's like, yeah, that's kind of the point. Like, literally I saw this picture the other day that was like, when you're on vacation but you have to work from home, and it's like a girl, I'm pointing here so I can put the picture here, she's like in the water on her computer. That is literally Vicki.
There's no internet. You know what? You're being snotty. No, you can't. So people are not working at all 100% of the time that they're on a cruise. I'm paying a lot of money to go on the ship. I want to figure out a way to get on the internet. You know what? You're making me go crazy right now. I have to call back. Okay, you know what? You need to get a different job. Okay, goodbye. All I want to do is be able to work when I'm there. Why is it so difficult?
So then we see Lauri. She's in Saint-Tropez with George. She mentions that she's left Ashley, her 21-year-old daughter, in charge of the townhouse, the place she was living last season. And she's like, yeah, you know, like, I trust her to, you know, keep it clean, keep the cats fed. We see the townhouse rotted. That shit looks like a rotten mess. And there's cat shit everywhere. There's like moldy food everywhere. Ashley's like, yeah, I think I keep the place pretty clean.
There was doo-doo, feces thrown all over the walls, the floor, the ceiling, and it stunk so bad.
And then she's on the phone with her friend. She's like, there's moldy milk in the sink. Like, oh my God, it looks like cheese. Like, girl, that is disgusting. But also, same thing with Jeana's dogs. I did not see these cats last season. Like, Ashley had that dog that she brought and then she left at the house. Where did all these cats come from? That's my question. Maybe George bought them for her because their names are Dolce and Chanel, which I think is kind of fierce. And Ashley says she knows that her mom expects her to be responsible, and she thinks she has a much better character than a lot of kids her age. That's definitely debatable, but I'll let her have that. Because in Kodo, honestly, probably. But that seems like a pretty low standard, no offense.
My mom never checks up on me. It's kind of nice. Okay, love you.
Love you too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
When I leave my house, I always put the cats in the garage just because I don't want my house smelling like crap.
So then we see Tammy, and Tammy's moving into the rental that Jeana actually found for her in Kodo. And she is moving in with her 17-year-old daughter, Lindsay. And she says, first of all, Lindsay, the makeup and the tan and the hair, it's looking a little crazy. There's definitely a lot going on there. But she does say, she's like, Lindsay, she's very sweet. She's a great kid. But Tammy says she hasn't seemed happy or content in probably over a year, especially with all the moving around and all of that kind of stuff, which is really sad. So she's hoping this can sort of give Lindsay a bit of stability. And in addition to her daughter Lindsay, she does have 2 other kids, one of which is her 4-year-old son Riley, who is her son with Duff, Vicky's employee. That's the woman he was in a relationship with for 10 years. That's the man that she was in a relationship with for 10 years. Her and Duff are clearly still very involved in each other's lives. I mean, they were together for 10 years and they do have a kid together. But she mentions that Duff, he was living out in Palm Springs and he wanted to start this business in Palm Springs, and he was then changing careers, and she just was like, I don't know if I can pack my family up and move out there without having like a solid foundation that we can rely on.
I am pleased for you. I really am. This house is nice. It's good for Riley.
You can come visit.
I think the friends with benefits situation suited us.
And you can kind of just immediately tell, like, that man still loves her. Like, it's honestly a bit sad. And Tammy kind of gets annoyed because instead of helping the movers, Duff is like sitting outside going through a box of memories of their 10 years together. And she gets annoyed. And it is a bit weird because it's like, again, you can tell he still really loves her and wants to be part of her life. But that's just like, you got to let it go. That would honestly piss me off too. It's like, can this not wait? Do you have to do this right now? Like, I'm trying to move this couch and you want to look at like photos of you with my kids? Like, stop.
I have proof forever and ever. You have broken a contract. It proves that you have broken our contract of love forever and ever.
Babysit for your birthday. You don't have to talk. Just
That was cool.
Okay, quit looking at me.
No, stop it. Look at
Okay, enough of this. Come on, we gotta pack.
Fun!
Okay, I'm gonna go pack while you guys are reminiscing.
And speaking of failing relationships, let me not get ahead of myself. We're back to Joe and Slade, and they're going to a charity event with each other and then Joe's friend JJ, who we're going to see a lot of this season. I think she's Queenie. I don't know. And the charity event is out in LA, and Joe basically says, like, when they're in the car, she's like, I wish we lived somewhere a little more, you know, upbeat, fast-paced, not in the suburbs. And it's pretty evident that Joe is over Coto de Casa. Like, this is not the tea for her.
It's like 15 minutes away from a freeway. And there's horses everywhere.
I know that's the idea.
Right, and I think it's beautiful when you're ready to retire.
And right at the gate, this is another fracture we can see in their relationship because, as we know, Slade loves the Kodo lifestyle. He loves this big, like, rich suburb gated community lifestyle, and this is just not the tea for Joe, and I think that's very understandable. And then Joe ever so casually mentions that there's a position opening up to have Beverly Hills as a territory because she has Newport Beach and she has LA. You can tell she's bringing it up because she's thinking about it. And she says, she's like, no, I just found out about it. I haven't been thinking about it, but this would be amazing. And Slade just is like, I don't want to talk about it because we're going to have fun tonight. And so they're hanging out with JJ. And like I said, I think JJ is Queenie. And Joe even says, she's like, I love her. She's kind of part of the reason why I'm getting this itch to move to LA. Because JJ's living out in LA and Joe obviously is looking at her life and then looking at JJ's life. And she's like, wait a minute. I'm kind of feeling that. Like, I'll have what she's having.
Where's the psychic?
I want to talk to her.
What if it tells you bad things? What if she tells you that JoJo's gonna move to LA with me?
Yeah.
You can hit her?
Even though last season was the very first season, this season we're going to get a lot of firsts. And JJ mentions that there's a psychic at the party, which if you are a Real Housewives watcher, you know psychics for some reason are a staple in the Real Housewives. These women seem to always be talking to a psychic. Famously, one of the best episodes of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the dinner party from hell episode where there's the psychic who's huffing on an e-cigarette and she says to Kyle Richards, she says, your husband will never fulfill you. Know that. And literally clocks her and she's like, once your kids grow up and move away, you guys will have nothing in common and your marriage will fall apart. And Dare I say she gagged it. That is like very amazing episode of Real Housewives. Like psychics, all that kind of thing play a massive role in this show, which obviously if you know me, you know I live for. I've only ever seen a psychic once and I cried my eyes out quite literally the entire time. So anyway, enough about me. Anyways, back to Joe and Slade. And so Miss Healing Intuitive says that she can offer Joe some guidance on anything she needs guidance on. So Joe sits down, she's like, okay, work. Because as we've seen, Joe she does need a bit of guidance. She's thinking about things outside of what she has. And what does Slade do? When Joe sits down with the psychic, he basically pretends to leave, does a lap, comes back, and then sits behind her and she doesn't realize. And I'm sorry, like, maybe it's just because I'm a little woo-woo. That would be like breakup material for me. I'm sorry. Like, do not get between me and the word of the spirit. Like, what the fuck?
So you want some clarity and guidance?
Yes.
Okay.
Once Joe sat down to meet with the psychic, I wandered around the corner and then came back and sat down behind her. And I don't think that Joe quite realized that I was sitting behind her.
In addition to that being like, that would actually be a deal breaker for me, unfortunately. And I'm like being dead serious. Joe asked the psychic, she's like, so there's this guy and like, I'm kind of wondering, is this the right thing for me right now? Not knowing the man in question is right behind her. And the psychic is like, I just don't really think this feels like the right thing for you right now. Which is like, they panned to Slade looking all like, oop. But I'm just like, don't go searching for things you don't want the answer to. Like, you were the one who snuck up behind her to sit behind her while she's talking to the psychic. Like, what did you think she was going to ask about? And then Joe asks a follow-up question to the psychic. And she's like, so there's actually this opportunity opening up in LA. And I'm wondering, like, is that the right thing for me? And the psychic is like, yes, Orange County doesn't really feel like the right place for you. This definitely seems like a really good move for you. Which is definitely what Joe wanted to hear. I don't think that's what Slade wanted to hear. But also, this isn't Slade's reading. So I don't really give a shit what he wanted to hear, but
it just doesn't feel like the right thing for you at this time.
And then Joe turns around and she sees Slade has been sitting there the whole time. And she says that broke her heart. Like, that was the worst feeling ever. But I'm just like, again, that would be a deal breaker for me. I'm sorry. Like, that's kind of a red flag. Obviously, we know Slade has a lot of red flags, many of which I touched on in season 1. But that alone, had I not seen season 1, that alone, that's a huge red flag for me. I'm sorry. Like, you can't even let me talk to a psychic without eavesdropping. And then you're going to probably get mad that I asked her those questions. Like, what did you think I was going to ask? I can't believe I made it almost one whole episode without hating on Slade. And now I get to do it freely. I've broken the seal. I've broken the dam. I hate you, Slade. I don't like you. So back at the Keough household, we do get more insight into their family dynamic. She mentions to Colton, who's her youngest son, that she read an article in the paper about like whether putting too much pressure on kids to train for one sport sort of like hinders their ability in other things. And she wonders if she's putting too much pressure on Colton because, as we know, baseball is a huge thing in their family. They wanted Shane to do it. They're realistically going to want Colton to do it. But now she's kind of like, she's having second thoughts because especially after Shane's injury, she's like, maybe we should let him do other things. And Shane feels they don't put enough pressure on Colton. He's like, you know, when I was his age, I was out every morning, like, you know, playing baseball, and Colton just sort of like plays video games for 90% of the day.
But he's so young. You don't think he's going to get hurt playing with 21-year-olds?
I played with them. I'm not going to get hurt.
Weren't you a sophomore or a junior?
I was maybe, like, it was my summer going in. I was maybe 6 months older than him.
And then we see that Shane and Colton fight a lot. Shane starts calling Colton gay, tells him to go put on his gay print.
Someone try this. I hear it's actually really good. I don't want to try it. Peanut butter chocolate cookie? Come on.
Oh, that's so gross.
You
gay man?
Get away from me.
Yeah, nice job. Now go get your apron and clean that up with your mouth.
And Colton says Shane is a dick. He's the meanest person you will ever meet. He is mean to everybody, which is interesting because I feel like we did not see that side of him last season. We did see a bit last season of Shane and Colton being brothers, and sort of like Colton mentioned that he did develop a stutter because Shane always cuts him off, and we saw a bit of that, but like not to this extent. And honestly, part of it might be the diamond earring sending like actual magnetic waves into his brain because there's been a shift. Something has shifted. And speaking of relationships that we're getting more insight into, we see Vicki, and she's talking about her relationship with Don, her husband, and she says that Don travels a lot for work. It's getting to a point where she feels like they don't know each other the way a married couple should anymore. She even says, she's like, at the end of the day, do we even still like each other? Like, she doesn't know, which is not really a good sign. But she thinks the cruise will be a good opportunity to sort of spend more time as a family and spend more time with Dawn. And Vicki naturally is freaking out about leaving the house, about leaving work. And Duff is like, relax. Like, we've got it. Go on vacation. Spend time with your family. Like, enjoy your life. Like, things will be fine without you.
Are you gonna be okay?
Are you going to be okay?
The question is, am I gonna be okay?
I'm fine.
No, I don't think I should go.
Oh my God.
I swear to God, I don't think I should go.
The anxiety level for Vicki right now is over the top. I'm sure it's going to take her an amazing amount of alcohol to settle down. Go on vacation.
It's now departure morning for their cruise. So it's Vicki and Dawn and then Brianna and Michael. And both Brianna and Michael, she said, were allowed to bring 2 friends. So there's 6 people, which is going to become a very crucial and important piece of information in about 1 minute. So bear with me while we do a head count. This, I'm like trying so hard not to laugh. But this is like Vicki's first absolutely iconic scene. This is a very classic, legendary Vicki Gunvalson moment. So Vicki had chartered, in her words, in Not All Diamonds and Rose, a limousine to shuttle them to the airport with bagels and mimosas and that kind of stuff because it is early in the morning. They each have about 2 to 3 suitcases. There's 6 people, okay? They walk outside the house and there is a little family van.
We are going on a cruise. This is not funny. You have a little family van. When do you ever bring a family van to pick up 6 people? Okay? This is ridiculous. You guys are everywhere. Why are you sending a family van?
And Vicki is absolutely fuming. She is calling the shuttle company and she's like, when do you ever send a family van for 6 people? Like, what is going on? I told you last night, we have this many people, we have this many bags. Why would you send this car? She's losing her mind. The merit of what she's mad about, I think, is reasonable, but the way it's being presented is insane. And so she's calling the company and they're saying, you know, like, all the shuttles are booked. This is all we've got. Like, we're so sorry. Like, this is what you ordered. And she's like, literally, no, it is not what I ordered. I was wanting bagels. I was wanting mimosas. And everyone in her family is like, okay, like, calm down. Like, we'll make it work. It's just, and I think, like, to my understanding, I think the ride to the airport is like 2 hours. So this would kind of be hell. And she's basically like, fuck my life. I wanted mimosas. I was expecting bagels. And honestly, like, I'm sorry. If I had gone to bed being like, I gotta get up early to go to the airport, but like, I'm getting in a limousine with bagels and mimosas, and that showed up at my door, I can't promise that I wouldn't react the same way. I think most people would. They might not deliver it in the same way, but I think you would be like, this is not what we ordered. This is not what we expected. But let me just roll the clip because I love this queen.
Should I call Jeana keough?
Yes, ask her.
Oh,
Vicki, we got it loaded in here. Let's go. Come on.
I was taking a nice limo, relaxing with a mimosa on our way to a trip. Oh my God, this is bull.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. It's this idiot.
Some may say she's being a Karen. This is before the term Karen really existed. I don't think she's not being a Karen, but I'm watching Real Housewives. I'm not expecting them really to not be Karens. This is one of those moments where also you have to remember what show you're watching, because if you're going to sit here and watch this and be like, oh my God, she's being such a Karen, I don't think you're watching the right show. Just turn the shit off. Like, I'm sorry, but don't clock out of my video. I need the views. Stop. Overall, I think everybody finds it funny, including Vicki. I think probably in retrospect, she did also get a laugh out of it because she certainly got an iconic moment. So, and even though Vicki went to the airport in a family van, I bet Lauri went to the airport in a limo. I bet George would make sure they were not sending a family van, even if it was for 2 people. He would get the whole limo. And so back to Lauri. Lauri again mentions that George is absolutely her Prince Charming. And the biggest news of the trip, he proposed. And she said yes, which is kind of amazing. Like, they've been dating for 6 months and they met on a blind date. And sometimes when you know, you know.
I mean, it was a huge thing. You know, I said I would never get married again. And I said that probably not all that long ago. I mean, he's just the most beautiful man and got the warmest heart that I've ever met.
So then back at the Keough household, Shane and his friends are playing in the pool. There's dogs everywhere. And Uncle Richie, who appeared last season, but I'm sorry, I can't bring myself to care about him. Like, he's their uncle who's always at the house. I don't know if he's like actually their uncle or if he's like their friend who the family friend they call their uncle. it's actually not important to me. He comes out and he's in his biking gear, and obviously Shane starts making fun of him, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna have a great bike. I got protection on my head and I got a condom in my pocket. And then Shane starts being homophobic and is like, oh, is that for Slade? Because Richie and Slade have become friends. Maybe Slade needed that. I don't think he has many. Actually, no, he had a couple friends last season. Let me be nice. Let me be nice. But they became friends because they're both into road biking. So he's going to go road biking with Mr. Slade. Meanwhile, Joe is down in LA hanging out. I don't know if it's down in LA or up in LA. I need to look at a map, but I'm just going to say whatever feels right coming out of my mouth. So Joe is in LA at JJ's apartment, and she's talking about what the psychic said. And JJ's telling her exactly what I would be telling her in this moment, which is she needs to just follow her heart and do what makes her happy. If she's not feeling satisfied, then it's a sign that she should move out to LA and she should follow her heart. And if she's happy doing the Orange County thing, then stay where you're at. But clearly you're feeling conflicted. And Joe says that she is feeling conflicted because she feels she's lost a sense of her independence. Before she met Slade, she was working 3 jobs. She was paying for everything herself. And then she met Slade and he provided everything. And JJ says, again, exactly what I would say, which is that that's just another way for him to control you, because you end up relying on him and needing him.
Then he leaves you without your independence, and he leaves you needing him. That's how he kept you with him all the time.
JJ.
Yeah, JoJo?
I'm really scared.
You're scared? Can I do anything to help you?
No, I just feel like for the first time in my life, I really just don't know what's gonna happen.
So on their little bike ride, Slade and Richie are talking about, his relationship with Joe. And let me continue my pattern of being a bit more graceful and forgiving towards Slade. He actually is being pretty reasonable in this moment, because he's saying he loves her, but he doesn't want to hold her back from doing what she wants to do. And he doesn't want to be with someone who questions if they should be together, which I think is kind of fair. Even though I think it's a red flag that you were sitting in on someone's psychic reading, I also think if I overheard my partner asking a psychic, hey, should I break up with my partner? Or like, hey, do you think my partner's right for me? I would start to have second thoughts as well.
I feel bad sometimes because I feel she holds back from doing what she wants to do. Sure. She wants to party. She wants to be 26. Not with a guy with 2 kids and sure, worrying about all my drama. I guess I love her enough to let her go.
Let's see how that attitude keeps up, okay? So then we see Tammy, and Tammy is with her mother because her mother is going to treat Tammy and her daughters for dinner for Tammy's birthday. But Tammy's badass kids are late as freak for this dinner. We've already met Lindsay, Tammy's 17-year-old daughter, and now we meet Megan. She shows up to dinner with her boyfriend.
There's me the ugly kid.
Very much tradition in our family for my mom to take just the girls out, but Megan, of course, had to bring her boyfriend. Of course, my child just can't go by the rules.
How are you?
My name's Roman.
We're not in the I'm sorry, that's Roman.
And she expresses that Megan is one of those kids. She's a great kid, but she does crazy things, and she was hit very hard by her parents' divorce. And Megan says Lindsay's not coming to dinner because she's mad at Megan for not driving her to the mall or something. And so Megan brought her boyfriend, Roman, who is a pit bull breeder. Lot going on here. And she's like, am I allowed to smoke out here even though they're on a non-smoking patio? And also, like, you're at dinner with your mom and your grandma. Like, that's a bit, I'm sorry, like, I'm just gonna say it. I refuse to believe that these were the richest people in Kodo. It's not clicking for me. And Tammy says that Megan was never really the typical Kodo child. She always kind of marched to the beat of her own drum, dyeing her hair crazy colors, body piercings, tattoos, that kind of stuff. Not really the typical Kodo kid.
Are we going to get the tattoos taken off? You told me that you were
No,
going to
we're
take
going to do that. I'm taking her to Bangkok.
I'm not going to Bangkok.
Yes.
To get my
No,
tattoos.
she's not
going to
go to Bangkok for a bargain. That's what they do.
No. My skin will fall off.
Anyways, back at the Keough household, we see Colton driving around his little golf cart. He loves driving his little golf cart around Kodo. And Colton mentions that he actually took apart his golf cart because otherwise Shane would drive it around and destroy it, because Shane has no regard for others and wouldn't really care, which is, again, very telling of Shane's character. And Tammy's over at the house, and Shane is being really weird and disrespectful to her as well. He keeps calling her tits, which is like, that's a crazy thing to call somebody, but also like, that's your mom's friend. Like, He's just being very weird and, again, disrespectful. And Shane does say in his talking head that he's feeling really frustrated since he hurt his back. He can't play baseball. His car is in the shop, so he can't even drive around. There's kind of nothing that he can do, which I can imagine can be frustrating, but that also doesn't give you a free pass to just be a huge asshole to everybody. So Shane is like, oh my God, we can drive the golf cart, even though it's Colton's golf cart. And he goes out and he discovers that Colton took it apart. He took a part off, literally for this exact reason. And Shane is pissed off, and he goes in the house and he starts pouring water on Colton's head and being like, fix it, fix the golf cart. And then Colton loses it and he throws the bottle of water at Shane. He calls him the F word. They don't bleep it in the show, but I'll probably bleep it in the clip, which is because like, that's crazy.
Fix it. Fix it. What are you doing? Fucking faggot, Shane. You think you're so fucking tough?
What did you just What was that?
What the you think you did that? What do you think it was, Shane? Get the off of me. Get off of me, faggot.
Stop it.
God, he's a fucking homo, Mom. He's 20 years old and he picks on people 14 because he just show up one of his fucking friends.
And they're like fighting. Like there's anger there. And I can imagine if you do have a brother like Shane who is like very disrespectful and constantly pushing your buttons and pushing you around, it probably is very easy to snap, but like this is ridiculous. Ultimately just very trashy. I don't know, like there's something very trashy about these people. I'm sorry. And Jeana's also not really doing anything. She's like, hey, stop. Meanwhile, like your kids are throwing shit at each other and pushing each other around and calling each other slurs. There's a lot going on. So back to my queen, Vicki Godwilson. Her cruise was amazing. She had the best time, and her cruise was very eye-opening for her in many ways. She got to spend time with her family. She got to see beautiful places, and she learned about the European work ethic, which is very different than the Vicki Gunvalson work ethic. Probably the exact opposite, especially in Italy, girl. And it is nice because Vicki does feel like she got to reconnect with her family, and especially with her husband, who she's been feeling a bit distant from because of both their work schedules. And I love Vicki. I'm sorry. Like, I'm biased. I love her. Her energy is amazing to me.
Talking to other people on the ship and saying, you know, the Europeans only work 8 months out of the year and they travel 4 months out of the year and spend time with their family, and they live in much smaller homes and they don't have $300 purses and $500 pairs of shoes. And it really made me sit and think about, I don't need this big house. I don't need 3 cars.
And this seems to be the episode where everybody's going on a trip, because we've got Lauri getting engaged in San Tropez. We've got Vicki having the most amazeballs cruise. And now we have Tammy in Vegas for her birthday. Tammy has this fabulous birthday party, and she says her daughters couldn't come because neither of them are 21. So they got to go and do their own thing, which we'll see in a second. Bear with me. But Tammy says this is the first birthday she's had in 25 years without a man, like her husband or Duff, which is kind of crazy, and she's learning to kind of be by herself a bit. But her birthday party looks fun. I'm glad that she's enjoying herself. Now on to Tammy's daughters. Megan says that her boyfriend Roman is 36. She's dating a 36-year-old bald pit bull breeder. I don't really love that. Definitely not a fan of that. That's definitely a bit weird. And so she says that she has known Roman for about 6 or 7 months, and they just started dating a couple of weeks ago. And this scene, they're at a tattoo parlor.
First tattoo, 15 years old, in someone's house. Most painful I think I've ever had. Ex-boyfriend Drew. Most recent. His parents hate the tattoos. At first, that's why I did it. I'm not gonna lie. The shock factor of it all.
So she's getting a tattoo right now. And when they showed the tattoo, right then and there, I'm like, it says ick, which I was like, okay, like, interesting. And the symbol it's on is also a little bit of a choice, but hey. Again, not a fan of this, but we'll get to what that says in a second. I also think getting a tattoo on your mom's birthday, knowing your mom hates your tattoos, is kind of nasty work.
I'm okay, mad. Where is it? I really thought you were joking when you were saying it. You're gonna show it to Would you like it? Have Oh, no, you didn't. You convinced her to do that?
No. I did not.
What is that?
I did not.
Oh my god.
I don't even want to know what that means.
Iron Cross Kennels.
Iron Cross Kennels.
Iron Cross Kennels? That actually has me speechless. Iron Cross? I need to know where Roman was on January 6th. because that's his kennel. There's so much going on here because first of all, Iron Cross Kennels, that alone is crazy. Second of all, they've been dating for a few weeks and you got your boyfriend's kennel tattooed on you. I get that that's where your dog's from, but like, couldn't you get the dog's name? I'm not a fan of whatever's happening here. And Tammy's kind of obviously also not a fan. And she's like, I thought we were going to take those off. Like, oh.
I mean, but still, my baby with tattoos. Like, come on.
I like tattoos. Get over it.
Anyways, back in Kodo, Jeana is taking Colton to go play baseball. Likely thing for them to be doing. And Colton says that the pressure to play baseball in their family is really high. And Shane said the same thing last season because, as we know, their father and also their grandfather both played in the major leagues, so it is kind of a big part of their family. And Jeana says that if she had to put her money on one of them, Colton or Shane, she actually thinks Colton is more talented at baseball than Shane is. But still, like, it is just a lot of pressure to put on them because Colton's like 14. And they have kind of an uncomfortable conversation because she asks him, like, why did you break your golf cart? And he's like, because Shane would have done it and like I just didn't want him to do that. And she says, she's like, well, why'd you have to throw that bottle? Like, why'd you have to do this? And he says exactly what I said, which is like, well, you don't do anything about it. When Shane's being an asshole, like, you don't do anything. And she kind of doesn't even really have a response to that.
But why did you have to throw that bottle? You could have hurt me or Riley.
Because he was poor.
Yeah, but why would you do that to me?
Because you don't do anything about it, so I have to.
You could have hit me. That wasn't very nice.
Okay, Mom.
And Jeana says that Colton is basically like her golden child because of his skill and all of that. And Colton does seem to be kind of affected by the fact their dad is like never around. So the episode opens with the Kodo Insurance employees, so Vicki, Duff, and still Lauri. Lauri still works for Vicki, and she's sharing the news that she got engaged, and Vicki's like, so when are you guys gonna get married? And Vicki's joking about offering to plan Lauri's wedding, and she says she's like, I'm happy for her, but I am a little jealous and also a little bit worried because I just hope, like, she's 45 years old and she's been married twice. I hope she's not rushing into this marriage, and I hope that with the money, he doesn't have too much control over her in that sense, which is like, Vicki is so kind. Because it is true, as we saw last season, and even as we're seeing now with Joe and Slade, where it's like that money in a relationship can be a huge control factor. But George does seem like a nice guy, so let's hope it's the best for Lauri.
I know I could still provide for myself if Dawn leaves me tomorrow. Can she do it if George leaves her? I don't know.
And so Lauri is at George's house, and she says she's getting ready to go to a Republican dinner for Mitt Romney, the governor of Massachusetts, who is, they say, is going to be the next Republican candidate. And I'm pretty sure he was. I don't know. I'm Canadian, so. And Lauri makes a joke where she's like, you know, a year ago I was getting ready to go to a Playboy party, and now I'm getting ready to go to a Republican party. What a difference a year makes. And I'm like, hold on. Let's not act all Hollywood now that you've got a rich man, because you were geeked to go to that Playboy party. You were taking pictures on the beach to go to that Playboy party. Like,
Before my mom met George, she never really cared about anything having to do with the Republican Party before.
I consider myself a Republican. I don't know what even really that means. It's just that my parents were Republicans, so I voted Republican ever since I turned 18.
I'm sure there's a lot of sociology to the fact that she was poor living in Idaho that contributed to that. So as a Canadian, no comment. Meanwhile, while Lauri's getting ready to go to this party, her daughter is shopping for horses online. I guess you can buy dogs on eBay and horses on the internet. What a time to be alive. So back at Jeana's house, Jeana tells us that she has 4 houses and that the kids each have a house if they want it, which is like, this is pre-market crash, but also like, that's kind of sickening. That's crazy, but that's kind of sickening.
We have a house in Irvine that we bought for Shane, and that's gone up $200,000 in the last year and a half that we've owned it. This is the second house we bought in Kodo. We paid $250,000 on the golf course. It's now worth $1.1 million.
It must feel so good to be able to afford a house. And Jeana says that her daughter Cara is very bad with money. She loves to shop. She loves to buy handbags and all these types of things. She's not very good at saving and investing, which is, I think, something that Jeana wants to teach her kids. But also last season, we saw Jeana just sending her money to buy clothes. So, like, how well are you teaching that lesson? But we meet Cara's boyfriend, Steven. She says they've been dating since, they were in middle school, but we did not see him last season. So, hey, Steven. Nice to meet you, I guess.
It's just money, you can't take it with you. That's what we said.
That's what everybody says, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I might as well spend it today because I could be dead tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess.
And it will be left unspent.
Car does anything she wants, basically. Doesn't really listen to anybody.
So out in LA, Jo is out partying with her friend JJ, and she says that, like, if she's been drinking, she usually stays over at JJ's house instead of trying to find her way back to Kodo, which makes sense. She says that JJ is kind of a bad influence on her, and Slade is trying to call her and is like, hey, call me back, are you coming home tonight, blah, 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 which, like, I get she's in a relationship, and it is, like, concerning to not be coming home, but also, like, you should trust her a little bit. And the next morning, Jo mentions that her and Slade have actually been fighting a lot, so she wants to do him a nice gesture and cook for him. And Jo says she's actually never cooked for him in the 2.5 years that they've been together, which is funny because last season all he ever talked about was like, oh, I want a wife who can cook and have dinner for me, when like this woman has never cooked for him a day in her life. And it's funny because she keeps saying, I'm gonna cook for you, I'm gonna cook for you, like I'm gonna cook for him, I want to do a nice gesture. The cooking in question is chocolate chip cookies, which is not cooking but still a nice gesture.
There's actually like scissors for the kitchen?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
Can at least make it look cute.
It's not about cute.
Add some color.
I thought you were gonna go take a class.
Baby, I told you that I would. I was trying to make you cookies. Why do you have to be so mean?
And so they start fighting, and he makes her feel stupid, and she cries, and she's like, he was being really mean to me, and he made me feel like a moron. But I will say, I'm not defending Slade, and I'm not harping on Jo. I will say she does seem a little bit less mature, and I think part of that is like just actually her age showing, and the fact that she is like 25 or 26 and she should be out living in LA with her friend and not trying to be a housewife. She is kind of being a little bit annoying sometimes, but I think it's okay to admit, like, I'm actually just not ready for this phase of my life. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think she should be villainized for not being ready for something that she doesn't really want to do. Is that okay to say? And this is just one of those moments where it shows they are just at totally different moments in their lives. She wants to hang out with her friends, which she's allowed to do, and he, you know, is focused on spending time as a family and with kids and yada yada yada. They're just at two totally different points in their life.
I'm not being mean. I understand that you were attempting to make it. What?
It's fine. Slade was being really mean and made me feel like I was a complete moron.
So we see Tammy and her daughter Lindsay. They go down memory lane, quite literally. They go to check out their old estate that they used to live in, which, fun fact, in the opening of the show, the shot right before the title of the show is a set of gates, and those gates actually are from Tammy's compound that she was living on because this house is insane. And she talks a little bit more about the ending of her marriage and that there was a typical affair and his company went bankrupt and they lost everything. Just hit after hit, clearly. That sucks.
I lived in Keough, and probably one of the largest homes in the States. You used to ride your bike up and down this.
I remember we were little bunnies. Remember Brownie?
Oh yeah,
and they used to walk
up
these. We used to have little bunny races.
Yeah, I remember the bunnies, all the bunny
It seems
food.
so much bigger.
It seems bigger?
Not now, but back then it was.
And Lindsay says that it's hard to visit these memories because being at this house reminds her of when her parents were together and when they were this happy family. And Tammy says that after the divorce, Lindsay actually started homeschooling because it was really embarrassing to go to school. And Lindsay said that she hated going to school because, again, people would always be asking questions. Everybody's nosy as hell in Kodo, clearly. But people would always be asking questions and they would talk about her family and say, oh, they lost all their money and blah, blah, blah. So that's why she started homeschooling.
Oh my God, in my teenage years, how cool would this be? Having a party.
That would have been scary.
Oh my God.
So I don't think I miss the big house. I think I miss my life, you know, because I was married, happy, 2 kids, all those things, and that part I miss.
Bye. So back at the gunvalson household, Vicki is cutting Michael's hair in the garage and asking him a million questions. She does say she's trying to be less controlling, and I believe her on that, but she definitely is asking a lot of questions. But I think she's valid because she is saying she's just trying to be a good mom. Honestly, like, I'm always gonna come to her defense. I'm sorry.
What are your plans today?
Going to eat and packing and then leaving.
Where are you going to go eat?
PF Chang's.
Why do you have to go there?
I don't have to go anywhere. That's where I want to go.
Okay.
But yeah, Vicki went to beauty school, so she says they can save $1 or $2 by her cutting Dawn and Michael's hair, which is great. But Michael's low-key really rude to Vicki. Like, she's just trying to help and be a good mom, and he's just like tuning her out, brushing her off, which is, I get that is a typical like mother-child relationship, but like, leave my queen alone. Leave my queen alone. So back to Tammy. Tammy mentions that her daughter Lindsay is feeling pretty lost and doesn't really know what she wants to do with her future. So she goes and has lunch with her biological father, Lou, Tammy's ex-husband. And her father's telling her that he wants her to go to college. He thinks it's really important, but she's kind of like, I don't really see the point. Like, why are you spending all that money and then you don't even know if you're going to make a lot of money, which like, fair, but I also do think school is important. Lou says they lost about $380 million. And you have to remember that's not adjusted for inflation. This is like 2006. He lost $380 million pre-2006. Like, that is crazy.
I don't want to just marry somebody that's rich because I know money does not make happiness. Example, my parents, they had it all. And they got divorced and then lost it all. Everybody that you know that has those mansions and everything else, they have problems behind their doors, you know?
And Lou says, like, if you have a dream, if you want that success, you have to be willing to fight for it. And Lindsay kind of leaves being like, I don't really know what I want to do. Like, my dad thinks college is important, but like, I want to experience the working world. I don't really know what the future holds for me. So we see Lindsay go for an interview for a receptionist position at a hair salon. And she says that she actually worked as a receptionist for her dad before. And this would be her first kind of real job that's not working for her dad. Honestly, this scene did kind of make me sick to my stomach. Sick to my stomach, fam. Because gone are the days where a receptionist was an entry-level position. And I know she has experience working for her dad, but still. Gone are the days where you could just walk in somewhere and be like, hi, I'm applying for a receptionist job. Now they want 9 college degrees. They want a specialized certificate. They want a university degree. They want 10 years of experience. It is insane. So I need to go back to this job market. Actually, no, it crashes in like a year. So never mind. Scratch that. Anyways, moving on. But I will say she does low-key suck at this interview.
Why do you want to work for Carlton? I love hair. I want to be a hair stylist or dyer cutter when I grow up. And I want to go to school for it. And I want to see if it's something I'm interested in. And I am interested, very interested in it, but I want to see if it's something I really, really want to do.
So then we see Lauri and George, and they're taking the whole family, all 7 kids and all, out to dinner to celebrate their engagement, including Josh. Lauri says they got Josh a 12-hour pass out of rehab, which is really nice, so he gets to be there as well to celebrate. Lauri says that she's at George's basically like 95% of the time, so she's actually thinking of giving Ashley the townhouse. And Josh starts talking about like, oh, I could move in with you. Like, when I get out of this program, I could move in with you. And Ashley's like, that's not happening. And even Lauri says, she's like, I kind of need Josh to prove that he's more responsible before I just go and let him live off technically on his own with Ashley.
You want the house to yourself so you can have parties.
I don't have parties anymore. I'm too mature.
Don't let her do it. Look at every single place she's lived. The apartment. Evicted.
And we find out here that the reason that Ashley came back home to live with Lauri in season 1 was because she got evicted from her apartment for skinny dipping in the hot tub. Meanwhile, in season 1, they just framed it as she was like, I'm just tired of living up in LA. Time to move home, when the reality is she got evicted. But Josh kind of feels like, okay, so what's the plan for me then? Like, you're just gonna cut me off? Because if I can't live with Ashley, then where am I gonna go?
So I see how the plan works. The plan works like cut off Josh, and then Josh is
cutting off Josh at all.
Oh, can I at least keep my room?
You get it together.
I think my mom should step up and figure something out and realize that Josh is never going to be old enough and responsible enough to have a house with a 22-year-old sibling.
Let's just see what happens. I don't know.
So back at Joe and Slade's house, Slade has planned a surprise weekend for him and Joe. I said this before, but like, Joe is kind of a little bit more annoying this season. Like, we're just seeing her act in a way that we didn't see in season 1. I just felt like she was a bit more mature and responsible last season, but it could just be the edit. It could be the edit. Like I said, it could be her also like acting her age and remembering what she actually wants out of life and breaking away from what Slade wants her to be. So I'm giving her grace. But even while they're packing, they're arguing. She's muttering to herself like, you suck, which he does. And he keeps making jokes that she's pregnant, which I don't love. Definitely feels a bit weird.
That absolutely bothers me because it made me feel like I could lose a few pounds.
Wait, hold on.
Baby, stop!
What's her name? Joe's reaction when I tease her about the little baby is not a pleasant one. But you know what? It seems to be that one thing that motivates her to head to the gym or take a dance class. So, you know, it works out.
Mind you, her body is tea, so I don't know what more you could want, but again, it's the 2000s. Let me not dwell on it. They get in the car and drive, and Joe literally is like, I hate Koto. I think Koto is stupid. So we can kind of see where her heart is headed. And Slade keeps making jokes about her being pregnant, and it's really weird and just really uncomfortable. She's telling him to stop, and she's like, I can't have a baby. It would ruin my life, which again shows where her head is at.
I'm just kidding.
It's not funny. My life would be over.
No, it wouldn't be over.
Yeah, it would. Screaming kids and stinky diapers and crying babies that I can't stand.
Anyway, back to Jeana. Jeana takes Cara to an equestrian event because some of Cara's friends are competing. And turns out that Cara actually knew Lindsay, Tammy's daughter, growing up. And she's talking about how rich they were. Like, you know, they had all these horses and all of this stuff. And then Lindsay and Tammy show up. And Lindsay grew up riding horses. Obviously, like, they were insanely rich. They had like a multi-million-dollar net worth, her parents. So likely thing for her to be doing, and she loved horses, but unfortunately when her parents lost all their money, they had to sell the horses. I do honestly feel really bad for Lindsay because I can't imagine like growing up with a hobby or a pastime or even just a circle of people that you love so much and then essentially being priced out of it because your family lost all your money.
I haven't seen you in like forever. I used to ride with Amanda at Kodo. We became really good friends, and then once I got out of it, she was gone. I haven't seen her in a long time.
And that can be really hard on a young girl. Like, Lindsay's only 17. But it is crazy how rich her parents were, and then to have nothing, that is insane. And Lindsay's talking about how much she misses horseback riding, and even like they asked like, oh, but like you loved it, why'd you stop? And she's just like, well, we kind of ran out of money. Which, like, yeah, this is very much a rich person activity. And Lindsay even says like, money out here means a lot. If you don't have money, like, you're basically a nobody. So one of the surprise activities that Slade has planned for him and Joe is a hot air balloon ride, and Joe is not really impressed, mostly because it's early in the morning and it's cold. And I know I've already said it, but I literally wrote in my notes here that I was like, Joe is both stupider but also more human this season, which is kind of why I'm not really, like, I'm trying not to harp on her because it's like she's being annoying but also she's being human. And she's kind of mad because she's like, I want a coffee. Like, I would enjoy this a lot more if I had a couple espressos in me. But when they get up there, she does say, she's like, I think it's sweet that after, 2.5 years or however long they've been together, that Slade still plans romantic things for us to do together, which I will give him that. That is very sweet of him.
That is approximately probably 50 acres.
Really?
Yeah.
What's an acre?
Joanna,
Huh?
you have a real estate license. I was on the test.
Oh,
It's 4,400 square feet, sound about right?
I don't remember. If somebody loves you, they should love you for your moronicness.
I think that's fair. They should love you completely and wholly, even when you are being a little bit stupid. I think all the smartest people, honestly, are a little bit stupid. I'm sorry. Like, if you're not a little bit stupid, I don't think you can really be that smart. Sorry if that's controversial to say. But of course, Slade has to be weird and keeps making jokes and comments about her being pregnant, which she isn't. And she's like, it's kind of weird when your boyfriend keeps joking about you being pregnant, because is this his way of saying, like, I want a baby, when that's not something she wants right now. So back at Vicki's house, Brianna and her boyfriend Colby are going up to Chicago to go visit family. And Vicki is like randomly keeps talking about no sex before marriage. And Brianna's like, no, mom, like, I know. And then Vicki randomly starts talking about the Bible and how, like, your virginity is a gift you can give your spouse and all of this. She's driving the point home. But then as soon as Brianna and Colby leave, Vicki's like, okay, we're going to the lake. We're going to Lake Havasu. We're going to the river. We're still in vacation mode, and it's time for us to whoop it up and party. And Vicki says that Havasu is a very different place than Kodo, and that she's never actually brought any of her Kodo friends out there because she doesn't think they would like it. You know, it's very, like, people don't have their fancy jewelry or their clothes or makeup or any of that stuff, so she just doesn't think they'd like the vibe. And Jeana says Vicki actually invited her, and she was like, I don't think it's my thing. It's not Kodo. Like, live a little. And Vicki says she loves going to Havasu because she can really cut loose and she doesn't have to worry about what people think of her. And, you know, her friends there are very different than her friends in Kodo. And Vicki says she's like, I feel like when I'm here, I don't get judged. They like me for who I am. I can wear my little cowboy hat and, you know, just be myself. And Don says he loves it because he's like, it's a great It's a mental vacation. I can get my wife away from the office and her phone calls and all of that and just relax.
The people in Lake Havasu are real people. If I was in a wheelchair with a tube coming out of me and I was paralyzed or whatever, they would be there to change my diapers.
And that brings us to the end of episode 3. Looking forward to episode 4. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful and I'm so happy. And if you made it to the end of the video, don't forget to leave a like, maybe even a comment, maybe even subscribe to the channel, maybe even hit the bell. That's a novel idea, so that you don't miss a single update on the Real Housewives of Orange County season 2 and beyond. But until then, I will see you next time for more Housewives with Heather. Goodbye, diva. Mwah. Slade literally thinks he's the housewife. The cameras are in the OR. Canada mention. We're seeing history be made right here.